Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm going to be talking about top 10 ways that you can save money. And these are things that I learned throughout the years, and I felt like, wow, I saved a lot of money doing some of these things. And so hopefully you can do the same too. I graduated back in 2015, and I've learned a lot of things the hard way. I've lost a lot of money, got scammed a lot. But these are top 10 things that I used to save myself a bit of money. Number one, let's get into it. I always get multiple quotes when I'm hiring a freelancer or a contractor. This is people that I need help with on, something around the house, or this is in regards to getting car insurance, home insurance, or even getting a mortgage to buy a home or getting a mortgage to buy a car. You always want to compare at least 3 quotes before you decide who to hire. Now, I always say, feeling more ambitious, if you have a little bit more time on your hands, get more quotes, right? You get a baseline, you get a sense of what it costs in the market. And once you know, you also get a sense of, who you like, what their pros and cons are, what kind of styles that people have. And all of the contracts are a little bit different. So get your quotes. Don't be lazy. Don't just buy the first one that you see. Always get 3. Second tip is, not everyone can do this, but if you can, go get an electric car. The United States of America is giving out sweet incentives for people to get an electric car. $7,500. That's nothing to laugh at, right? Electric cars have less maintenance, less repairs that you got to do for the longevity of the lifespan. You're also not paying fuel, right? I mean, sure, you're paying electricity, but on average, you're saving about 60% on fuel costs. And that adds up. Like, take a look at the Tesla website right here, right? Tesla.com. You get a Model 3. You're saving, what does it say? $4,800 over the course of 6 years. You get $7,500 back in federal tax credit. So suddenly you can afford to get a really great electric car. And so why not? I've driven an electric car for many years now, and I absolutely love it. It's so low maintenance. I just charge it right at home. And electricity is actually a little bit cheaper where I am compared to, of course, I guess some folks in California. And so it's been great. I've been no regrets. Tip number 3. Is to shop in a no tax state. When you're wanting to go and spend some money, when you want to go and buy that thing you've always wanted, you want to get that new laptop, you want to get that new shirt or dress shirt or whatever it may be. Just wait until you go visit a no tax state. There's 5 states in America that are no tax. 1, Alaska. 2, Delaware. 3, Montana. 4, New Hampshire, and 5, Oregon. Wait until you buy in one of these states and you can save yourself a pretty penny. Here in Washington, we have a state tax of 10.1%. It's not all of Washington, but here in Bellevue, 10.1%. That's insane.
Nani?
That $1,000 MacBook laptop costed you $100 more in taxes. Now, sure, do this, at your own risk because it is a little bit of a gray area. So don't go overboard on this. Don't go and start making a business out of this and, buying millions of dollars of stuff in a no tax state. You're going to get yourself caught. There's been people that buying art for millions of dollars in a no tax state and trying to ship it back to their home. They're going to get sued for tax evasion. So be careful. Don't go overboard on that. Tip number 4. You want to track your money very carefully. And, some people do this using apps. There's a lot of apps out there that help you track your money, but I haven't yet found one that's able to track all my credit cards in one place. And so what I do instead personally is I just once every few weeks, I just go through and check all of my credit cards, make sure I'm paying off all of those balances. But also just scanning through the most recent transactions over the course of the last few weeks and just seeing, are these purchases that I've made and how much have I been spending over the last few weeks, and getting a sense of how much money I'm making and how much money is going out. And so through that, I'm able to get a sense of, okay, I'm spending a little bit too much, or okay, gosh, I'm wasting way too much on eating out. And so that's a great way to be able to understand where you're at and how to assess how much money you're spending and if you should start cutting back a little bit. Is that when you are checking your recent transactions on your credit cards, fight those fees. If you're ever getting charged a late fee, or if you're getting charged sometimes they have oh, you went under the required amount in your credit card or in your checking account. Most often than not, they'll give you that money back if you just call them, like, hey, it was a mistake. I just got to send the funds in a few days late. Can I get a one-time exception or a two-time exception? They're usually pretty nice about it. So it doesn't hurt. If you don't ask, the answer is all you know, right? Let's get into tip number 5. Don't buy things you don't need. I know that's a lot easier said than done, but this is something that definitely takes a little bit of discipline. Don't go buy that fancy car that you don't need. Don't go buy that fancy TV that you don't need. Go buying that PlayStation, your gaming computer. Fallen guilty to all of these things, and I will say, looking back over the years, definitely have a sense of regret. Take a look at this photo from back in my college days. I definitely went overboard on, I have this nice LED laser light show in the back, the PlayStation, the TV, even a water fountain, guitar. I mean, guitar, sure, at least you're learning something cool. But everything else is you don't need. And when I moved out of there, guess what happened with all that stuff? I don't even know. They disappeared. And more stuff, more problems. Like, what are you going to do with that? All that just becomes junk and you throw it away. They lose value over time, And so that's one of the things that I'm like, gosh, why did I buy all those things? I actually bought a car when I was in college. And I'm like, wow, if I, instead of buying that car, put all that money, let's say, like even in the S&P 500, or I actually invested in Bitcoin a lot at the time, which I got out of. But, like it would have been way more worthwhile buying and investing in assets rather than buying stuff that goes down in value over time. So that's tip number 5. Okay, let's go on to tip number 6. Yeah! Tip number 6, cook at home. Oh my gosh, like I say this because I've been looking at my credit cards lately and I realize, wow, I've been spending way too much money on restaurants, on food. And it makes sense because, you think about the upcharge that these restaurants are charging you. On average, they're charging you 28%. On average, they're charging you 28 to 32% markup. And on top of that, you got to pay, your sales tax, which in this city, in Bellevue, it's 10.1%. And then on top of that, you got to pay another, on average, 15 to 20% tips. So your $100 meal that you're already being overcharged for is going to cost $130 after tips and taxes, right? That's insane.
Nani?
You want to cook a really delicious steak, go to your grocery store, buy that New York strip, buy that, fancy sirloin or Kobe steak even. Just get that and cook it at home. It's not that hard. Some salt and pepper, learn it, and you're going to save yourself a lot of money. All right, let's go on to tip number 7. Tip number 7, I actually use this a lot personally, and I sometimes go way overboard on this. So I love to use a website called slickdeals.net, right? And it is basically an aggregation of all of the deals across all the websites, and the community votes on which ones are good deals or not. And so you get the first insight of when there is a really good deal that comes up. And, and then when you need to buy something, don't just buy the first thing unless you really need it, right? There's definitely a case for if you need something urgently, sure, you can buy it. Go to Amazon or, buy at Best Buy or somewhere locally. But if you're wanting to buy that nice computer, or if you're wanting to buy that nice luxury handbag, or you're craving for something that's nice to have, definitely give it a wait, right? So that's one thing. I mean, the other thing is that there's always a lot of like basic necessities that always goes on sale. So, I always stock up on buying, basic utility things that I know I will use eventually and doesn't expire. So things such as toilet paper, soap, or, like paper towels, things of that nature, dishwash, laundry detergent, right? Like when I see some of these things go on sale, I'll just stock up a bit, right? And get like a a year's supply and just yeah, and just use it a little bit at a time. That way I don't have to think about ever needing to buy this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of XYZ. Well, no, I'm not. I still have a stash of it. So saves time, saves money, win-win. All right, let's go on to the next one. Tip number 8 is to save on utilities. There's a fun fact that not a lot of people know. At least here in the state of Washington, there's something called, I guess like just the normal fees, and there's a lot of these storm setup fees and etc. And most people don't know, but you can just call them and tell them like, hey, like how do I get a discount on some of these utility fees? And you can be like, hey, I just moved in, or like, hey, I'm not using that much water for lately, and can I get a discount? And your miles may vary, but sometimes you'll be able to get it. I got it for both my home here today, and as well as my previous home. I just called and be like, hey, look, these fees are crazy. How can I reduce that? And so they'll give you some nice helpful tips, as well as help you save money and maybe reduce some of those core costs. The other ones are Wi-Fi and garbage. It never hurts to call and ask for discounts. And also your insurance. I recently called my insurance and be like, hey, this is so expensive. I'm paying like $3,000 a month. Or sorry, what the heck? Just kidding. $3,000 a year in premiums for my car insurance. And so I called them like, hey, this is kind of expensive. Anything I can do? And they're like, hey, yeah, there's like this new program you should definitely enroll where we track your car driven manner and we'll give you a discount based on how you're driving. I'm like, great, sign me up, right? It doesn't cost me anything. So you never know. Once in a while, call in and see what you can get, right? And Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is a fun one. Wi-Fi, I always, get those contracts signed, either a 1 year or 2 year contract signed. And whenever I run out of that, and it goes back to like the extremely, expensive month-to-month amount, I just call them and say, hey, can I get on a 1 year, or is there any 2 year promos that's going on I can sign up for? More often than not, they'll have something, and just go and sign up. You're going to pay a lot less. Yes, you are locked in for that period of time, but you're going to be paying a lot less per month, which is a huge one. And also take a look at like, what is the plan that you're paying for? Most people think they need way more download speeds than they actually do. Right now I'm on like 30, 45 megabytes download speeds. Perfectly just fine. And previously I was like, oh, I'm a gamer though, so I need to buy like, 1 gigabyte line. No, you don't. It's been fine. Unless you're downloading a lot of stuff, a lot of videos, hard files, and onto your computer, then yeah, take a look. You most likely don't need it. Tip number 9. Tip number 9, I kind of covered this a little bit, but it's basically just buy things in bulk, right? This is like, go to that, this is why Costco memberships are so popular. You're able to buy things in bulk and have a much cheaper price overall. And this same thing applies for anything that you need, whether it's rice or whether it's, of course, you want to make sure you're buying things that are not perishable, right? And things that you will use for sure. Things such as printing paper or printing ink, right? Pencils, pens. Try to buy things in bulk, and you're going to save yourself quite a bit of money. Tip number 10, this is my last and final tip, is to put money away in a place where you're not tempted to use it. Now, the reason why this is a money saving trick is because it's hard to save money, and discipline is hard. And unless you are a super, rare individual that has the best discipline in the world and not tempted to spend your money, um, this is a tip for you, not for you. This is more of a tip for the rest of us who wants to put it away and forget about it. And so that's where this trick comes in. Put your money in a place where you're not tempted to easily access and use it. These are areas such as, put it in lock it away in a CD, lock it away in bonds, put it inside, buy some US treasuries, right? Put it in your 401k or your HSA or even your Roth IRA. And putting your money into these vehicles, one, grows your money a lot quicker than putting it in a checking account or a savings account. But also B, it makes it a little bit harder to access that money such that you're not tempted to use it unless you really need it, right? And so that is a huge tip I would highly recommend everyone. I'll make another video at some point to kind of go in more these various vehicles and which one you'd want to take advantage of and kind of talk about the differences and pros and cons of each. And so stay tuned for that video. Now we're going to get into a bonus tip. Bonus tip number 1. If you're saying that you're spending a lot of money on Ubers and Lyfts, take a step back and think, is there alternatives that you can take to be able to avoid those? Can you find a carpool or van pool in your area that you can participate in and register? Is there public transit that you can take advantage of, right? Is there a coworker that you can carpool with to go and get back from work from? Every single state has some kind of program. Here in the state of Washington, we have a really good program where any group of 5 people that work can go and sign up and just get straight up a free car. When I say free car, like a free van. Like take a look at this van pool here from the state of Washington, right? You can drive this on your own, park it at your home, and use this across the board. You don't have to pay for tolls. You don't have to pay for parking. It's great. You're going to save a lot of money by doing this. And not only is it better and more green for the economy, sorry, not the economy, for the environment, but it's also going to save you a lot of money. You don't have to pay your insurance. You don't have to pay car insurance on this thing. You don't have to pay, I don't even think you have to pay gas or all any of that stuff, maintenance on this vehicle either. It's all covered for you. So definitely take a look. This is a huge thing that can save you a lot of money. Bonus tip number 2. Let's get into that. Bonus tip 2. It's a tip for travel nerds, right? I'm a travel nerd, and I'll at some point make a video about that and kind of like, my experiences with that and how I can save some money there. But bonus tip for travel nerds would be get a credit card, right? Get a credit card that gives you a lot of free perks. Now, this only works if you're traveling, at least once or twice a year, right? If you're not at all traveling more than that, I wouldn't suggest doing this. But if you do travel once or twice more than that than a year, there's a lot of great credit cards that you can take advantage of. Maybe at some point I'll make a video about just credit cards. But in general, there's a lot of credit cards out there that give you something called a priority pass. And now a priority pass gives you access to airport lounges, and depending on the type, it'll even give you access to free food at restaurants at the airport as well. And it's just a huge perk when you're traveling around. You don't have to worry much about food because you can just go around and just access all these lounges, get their free food, get their free drinks, and it's just a really great perk. Not on top of that, I mean, a lot of these credit cards that give you other perks as well. The one that I'm using right now is Venture X, and the card basically pays for itself, right? I get a 10,000 point anniversary, which is about $100 worth, and then they reimburse me for $300 worth of travel spend every year, and I do spend that every year. So it does have an annual fee of like $395 a year, but just the anniversary points and the $300 reimbursement covers the entire annual fee. So everything else I get on top of that is an absolute free. So for example, they're also paying for my TSA pre-check, which is I think like a $75 value every 4 years. They're paying for also the priority pass. as well as a number of other benefits, such as like your cell phone protection or your rental car protection, and et cetera, right? So definitely worth taking a look into. I really like that card right now. And the other card that I'm using right now is a Hyatt hotel card, and I'm a huge fan of Hyatt. I'll get into that at some point more in detail later on. But this gives me a 1 free night a year, which also offsets the annual fee of the card. But in exchange, or like, so that covers the annual fee every year, and then on top of that, just whatever I get is free, like the extra points that I earn through Hyatt and etc. The other credit card that I have right now is the Alaska Airlines card. I really like this one as well, and it also pays for itself because it gives a companion fare. Companion fare is you basically can travel with someone together, and for the second person that is traveling with you, you only have to pay $99 plus taxes and fees, and that's it. And so you can book a flight from, let's say, wherever you are to Hawaii and save a lot of money. And that's going to offset more, in many cases, a lot more than the, like, what is it, like $79 a year of annual fee that they're charging. So definitely worth looking into. All right. And so with that, that concludes my tips and tricks. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you found something in there that's useful. Take care, folks.